Oscar Wilde, an Irish writer who lived in the second half of the 19th century from 1854 to 1900, wrote stories, a novel, plays, essays, and poetry. His most famous are The Picture of Dorian Gray, which he wrote in 1890, The Importance of Being Earnest, which he wrote in 1895, and De Profundis, which he wrote in 1897. He was an author and editor, but he was also a celebrity. He was witty, flamboyant, rebellious. Like Lord Byron, he carefully crafted his public image, creating himself as a character. But although he married and had a child, he was also homosexual at a time when being homosexual was a crime punishable by hard labor. In this class, we are reading his theatrical masterpiece, The Importance of Being Earnest. It was first performed in 1895, and it was a tremendous success. It's a lighthearted farce with just a hint of satire, right? Satirizing the upper classes and their attitudes, and also more general Victorian attitudes. Because it's so funny and engaging, some students make the mistake of treating this play as though it is sort of investigative journalism, determined to tell the truth about Victorian society. And that's all wrong. This is not a hard-hitting expose of Victorian society. So don't think of this as revealing the truth about Victorian society, even though it does touch on some aspects of Victorian society. Here are two contemporary reviewers talking about how they saw the play. A.B. Walker says, "It is of nonsense all compact, and better nonsense I think our stage has not seen." William Archer similarly says, "What can a poor critic do with a play which raises no principle, whether of art or morals, creates its own canons and conventions, and is nothing but an absolutely willful expression of an irrepressibly witty personality?" Okay. That's not to say that there's nothing here about Victorian society, only that Wilde's main purpose was comedy. I asked my son, there he is, who knows more about movies than he should, and who once starred as Algernon in The Importance of Being Earnest, what satirical movies I could compare it to that would make sense. And here's what he said: Mean Girls and Anchorman. So, for instance, if you wanted to find out the truth about an American high school, you would not watch Mean Girls, even though there is some truth in it. And if you wanted to find out the real truth about American journalism, you will not consult Ron Burgundy. Both are exaggerations of real tendencies in the society, yes, but they're played for comedy. It's the same for Oscar Wilde's The Importance of Being Earnest. Now, I believe that if possible, you should try to experience a work as its author intended it to be experienced. This is a play, and ideally you would see it in the theater, not just read the script. If I could, I would rent out a luxury bus, pick you all up, and take you to a performance of The Importance of Being Earnest. I've looked online. There's a production coming up in LA, which would be fun. Also one in British Columbia, one in Dublin, and one in London this month. But my salary will not run to that. So I am recommending two movies that you can stream through Amazon. Either one of them would be wonderful. Before you head off, though, for a morning or an afternoon or an evening of comedy, I need to tell you the rest of Oscar Wilde's story, which is tragic. Wilde had a love affair with Lord Alfred Douglas, whose nickname was Bosie, and there you see them sitting together. When Bosie's father, the Marquess of Queensberry, accused him publicly of homosexuality, Wilde sued for libel and lost. He was subsequently found guilty of gross indecency, which was the catch-all term for homosexual activity, and he was sentenced to 2 years hard labor. He never recovered his health or his spirits, and he died in exile in France just 3 years after he was released from prison. His imprisonment and death were a tragedy both for him and for English literature, which lost who knows how many comic masterpieces.